Hello, my lovelies. Today's story time is going to be about the time that I was homeless. Now, this was when I was 16, 17 years old. Let me just say, I was probably the worst teenager to ever have. Like, I ran away a lot, and not even for a really good reason at that time, but I just didn't want to be home. And I had somewhat of controlling parents, but not really. I was not to do teenage things, is what I like to say, so I did not want to be there at all. Now, this was one of two times that I was homeless. This was going to be the first time that I was homeless. To start this story off, I was 16 years old, rebellious as hell, did not want to be home at all. For whatever reason, I just didn't want to be home. So at this time, I probably snuck out of the house more than a dozen times. I'm probably going to be like closer to 30 times at this point, just not to be home. My parents had called the cops to bring me back home if they found me. Craziness. So this particular time, I ran away because at the time I had a boyfriend and my parents despised him, did not like him at all. So they told me I was no longer to talk to him, I was no longer allowed to see him, that every communication they were trying to prevent. So my butt packed a bag and jumped out my window. Now, my house was a 3-story house, and my bedroom was on the top story, so third floor of this house, and I had a roof, and next to the roof was a tree. So I would get on my roof and I would basically jump on this tree and shimmy my way down and then book it. So I ended up meeting up with this said boyfriend, and we were like, well, we need a place to lay low because my parents are going to call the cops, and his mom would have called the cops as well because he was a runaway at this point as well. So there was this house in one of the areas that we like to hang out at that was no longer, I don't think nobody lived in it for quite some time, but my boyfriend at the time knew the previous owners. And they were like, oh yeah, you can stay in there. There's still electricity and there's still water. So I was like, okay, cool. But there was no electricity. There was only running water. So I was like, okay, that's not that big of a deal. But it was. So it was probably almost winter time at this point. So it was getting pretty cold. So we stayed in this abandoned house for probably a couple weeks before something crazy happened. So because we were staying there, a lot of the neighbors could tell that this house was vacant, but we were squatters. So a couple times they've had to call the cops, and we were just quicker to leave the house once we noticed them coming, and we were able to sneak out the back and not get caught. This particular time, we had multiple people in this house, and I'm talking maybe like 15 people in this house. These cops were called for, I don't know if it was the neighbor called because we were lighting candles and thought we were trying to light the house on fire, or if we were burning stuff in the house and they were concerned. So this time the cops were called, and there were more than 2 cops. So we were all in this one front bedroom. Not all of us, but a majority of us were in this one front bedroom, and you can look out and you could see if police were coming down the street or whatever. And we seen, I think at the time there was 8 cop cars coming down the street. And we said, fuck, we need to go. But what we also didn't notice, that there were cops already in the back of the yard. So right when we were coming down the steps, we could see out of one of the windows, and we could see that there was 3 cops in the backyard. One had a canine. I about shit my pants. Sorry about my language, but I almost did, because that was terrifying. Just to know a dog. There was a lot of scary things, but I don't know why the dog was like more of like, holy shish kebabs, I'm gonna get bit. So this was like a type of house where it had 1 steps like this, 1 steps like this, and then steps to go in the basement. So all the steps were like really close together. So we ran into the basement and locked the door. not really also thinking that there was a back door, like a cellar door to lead to the basement, and they were going to try to open it. We could hear the other cops upstairs. They got into the front door. So we're like, we're going to get caught. And I said, I'd rather surrender because I don't want to get bit by the dog. And everybody else was like, fuck that. We're running. And I'm like, I'm not running. Heck no, I'm not running. And my boyfriend was just like, run, Grace. I need you to run. I was like, I'm telling you right now, I can't run. I can't. Like, I'm not a runner. So I said, I'm not running. There's no way I'm running. I can't run. I physically cannot run. They opened up the door and they were like, come out with your hands up or you're going to get bit by the dog. I'm like, hell no. I see people going through the window to get out to run. 2 of them did, and the other ones got caught. But as I'm making my way up the steps, I see the dog and I see 2 other police officers, and I have my hands like this. And the one cop, mind you, it was raining all that day. So everything was drenched. So the cop, it was like a cellar door that's flush to the ground. So you have to go down to get into this, like to get to the steps. So there was a cop here, a cop with a dog here, and 2 other cops there. This cop probably was like 280 pounds, and he fell directly on top of me. Now, I am probably 100 pounds soaking wet. At that age, like, I was very, very tiny, and this 200 plus pound cop fell on top of me. And the way he fell on top of me, he hit the top part of my head and the back side of my body. So I fell on top of the steps. I had literally the biggest bruise going from shoulder blade to shoulder blade, and where my hips were, because that's where my impact hit the hardest on the steps. The steps were concrete, okay? So after the cop did that, he felt awful. Like, I could just tell by his demeanor, like, he goes, like, she's hurt. Like, I don't remember what this is called, but this bone right here was fractured in 2 spots from just him falling on top of me. So after they assessed me, kind of looking me over, and they realized, okay, well, she needs an ambulance. So they called an ambulance. The ambulance came, and the cop that followed me wanted to ride with me. And me being me, because I was so bullheaded and stubborn, I said, no, I did not want him to come in. I didn't want him nothing near me. And he goes, I need to ask you questions, so I think I need to ride with you. And I'm like, no, really don't. I was being very, very bad, very ignorant. I shouldn't have been doing that or acting that way to him, because he was honestly trying to help me out. So he ended up coming anyways, and he kept saying, like, I'm sorry for falling on you. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, come on now. I kind of deserved it in a way, because I was staying in a house that you shouldn't have been in. But anywho, so we get to the hospital, and he's still trying to ask me questions, and I'm just like not answering that at all. One of the nurses come in and say, listen, you can either be nice and answer all his questions and probably go home, or you can go to jail with the rest of your buddies. And I'm like, none of them went to jail. Like, they're minors. Like, really? What? Really? No. They did. Boyfriend and all went to jail. So I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go to jail. So I was like, all right, whatever, fine. And he goes, do you know what your boyfriend and all his little buddies had on? I was like, I have no freaking idea. I'm not their person. Like, no. They have guns and drugs all over them. And me being me then, I was not into any of that. I did not do drugs, and I was not into guns at all. So when he was telling me, like, I was not believing it at first, because I was like, no, my boyfriend doesn't do that stuff. And he goes, well, yeah, your boyfriend is going to jail for possession of a firearm and some drugs. And I'm like, whatever at this point. And he goes, well, what's your mother and father's name? And I was like, I'm telling you now, they probably already made a report about me. I am a constant runaway. I did not lie about that. I told them I was runaway from the jump. And they were like, okay, well, what's your mother and father's name? And of course, they made a report of me as a runaway. Kind of figured they would. My parents came out. My parents were so pissed off at me, they wouldn't even talk to me. They wouldn't even look at me. They didn't ask if I was okay or nothing. They kind of was on the, like, bandwagon of, you kind of deserved it. Which I did. I was an awful child. I really regret how I acted when I was younger. So my parents were like, well, you need to tell them the rest of the people's names that got away. And I'm like, I don't know all of them. I was like, there was a bunch of people in the house. I don't know. And I really didn't know their names. I knew a few of their names, but I wasn't going to give up them. And the two that I knew for sure of their names, they were already locked up anyways. So basically, after all of that ordeal, they let me go home with my parents. My parents brought me home and they sat me down. They had this long conversation of like how disappointed they were at me. And I get that. I was, like I said, very, very bad as a teenager. The next morning, my dad woke me up and he goes, I need to show you something. And I'm like, oh my God, what? Like, what do you need to wake me up at 7 a.m. for to show me this? The house that we were staying in, that we shouldn't have been in, on the news, there was a house on fire. There was 2 people dead in that house. That house was the one house we were staying in. And the 2 people that were in that house were hiding from the cops. There was candles lit in the bathroom so we could see when we were using the bathroom. And the curtain caught on fire. And it killed those 2 boys. My heart, God, I don't want to cry. My heart went in my stomach. And my dad looked at me and he said, that could have been you. And he was right. The 2 boys were 14 and 18. They were cousins. And they died because we all made stupid decisions that night. That changed my whole outlook on life. I instantly went to my room and locked the door. I had the worst thoughts in my head at that point. Guilt was a big one. Because at that point, they shouldn't have been in the house. They were there because of other people. Me and my boyfriend shouldn't have been in that house. But we were making stupid decisions. And I feel like if we weren't in that house, if we didn't make that choice to stay there, none of that would have happened. They wouldn't have lost their lives. You don't realize when you're young about repercussions and consequences of actions that you think are fine in that moment. In that moment when I chose to go stay at that house, I didn't think of anything bad happening. And then if anything did, it was cops being called on us and I was just getting escorted back home. Never once have I thought staying there that somebody was going to die in result of us staying there. I was so distraught from that I did not come out of my room for probably, I think it was like 5 days. I did not go to the kids' funerals. I got admitted into a mental institution. That was the result of my actions and the consequences afterwards. Because my head was so messed up from that result of my stupid actions. I got put in a mental hospital for, I think it was 37 days. My parents were the ones who admitted me. They felt like it was completely necessary, and as an adult looking back, it was completely necessary. Because at that point, I felt like I probably could have done something even more stupid. because I was in that kind of mindset and I had that much guilt. And it sucked. It still sucks. I still think about it very often. And it's something that I'm always going to have to deal with and always going to think about, because my actions resulted in somebody else's life being taken. And now you might not agree. You might say they're their own person, but that is how I view that. Because I could have easily said, nope, not going in that house, not staying in that house, not going to run away, not letting all those people come in that house. Yes, now you probably think like they're their own person. So of course, like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Stop thinking that way. But in my head, especially back then, it was. And now I don't want to say fully take responsibility of that, because I take a big part, only because people lost their lives and it was due to me being stupid. Like, it's just scarred in my head, their faces, the news. It was one of the hardest things I've been through as a kid. And I did not know these kids personally. I met them that one day. That was it. But that whole year made my life, I'm trying to think of how to put it. That whole year changed the way I view so many things. Especially now as an adult, that I look back on that. Oh, I pray to God my kids don't act the way I did. I pray to God they don't. Because the things that I did and the results of the things that I did, I'll never be able to forget or heal from. I can't. I want to try to end this on a good note. I'm going to try. I want those teens that think they don't need to listen to their parents, that they have everything figured out, to listen to me. You don't. You have no idea. Oh, honey, if I knew if I could go back and see my 15, 16, 17-year-old self again, what I would tell her. What I would tell her. Oh my goodness. Like, you guys don't know what life is. You're still babies. You're still learning. I'm still learning at 29 years old. I'm still learning this thing called life. Oh, honey, you guys just don't know. You listen. Stay home. Forget that party. And if you go to that party, don't drink. Don't lie to your parents about it. Be responsible for your own. Don't drag people with you. Don't make that stupid mistake of drinking and doing drugs. It's not worth it. Don't think, oh, that one time that I'm going to go in this and do this stupid thing, there's going to be no consequences. Because more than likely, there's going to be big ones. Just don't. Like, be a kid. That's fine. Kids make mistakes. Adults make mistakes. But don't sit there and think that your mistakes will have no serious consequences. And don't sit there and act like you know it all, because trust me, you don't. At 29 years old, I can say I don't know it all. I still have to call somebody to sit there and say, hey, what's this about? How do I do that? How do I do this? You don't know it all. And I don't think there's an age where you can say, like, you know it all, because nobody does. But think twice. And listen to your parents. Because I really wish I did. I really wish I did. Wishful thinking, I guess, at this point. So I'm going to end this story time here. I have so many more coming up. I'm going to try to film again tomorrow. I'm going to get this up as soon as I can. But please, enjoy your day. Have the best day ever, the best week ever, the best month ever. Let's make this year the year, okay? Just let's make it the year. So I will see you guys next time in my next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave a comment down below letting me know what you guys want to see from me. Alrighty, bye guys.